Ignoring all the negative thoughts your mind tells you they lies. Whatever compels you resides in you. That's the silent truth, God. One day you'll find out that the vine is root. And the divine is you. Blow your mind, cause you designed it too. Even when you walk.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us for the OptiMystic Podcast, episode 1.
That's right, baby.
With your hosts, OptiMystic Banks.
In the house.
That's right. And your co-host, your sidekick, your brother.
That's right.
Brooks Nelson, Blader Brooks, Kung Fu Brooks, depending on what you want to follow me as. But, so yeah, man, the OptiMystic Podcast. So we decided, we've done some other podcast stuff, and
the other stuff was kind of like a proof of concept. We didn't really know like what we were going to talk about. We knew that we just wanted to document whatever this journey is that we were on. And proof of concept worked. It's reached millions of people. Thank you all for resonating with it. And so now we're just kind of honing in a little bit more and going to give you a little bit more of what you guys want.
That's right. And now, so, since I am your brother and I grew up with you, I know your story, but we were talking about, should we do an intro for you or not? And you're saying that a lot of people who talk to you on social media and stuff like that actually don't know your story. So for those that don't know, let's jump right into it. So first of all, what's this podcast about?
So this podcast, again, is to kind of, we'll continue to document the spiritual, mystical awakening, but, to also help people along the way with the stuff that they're struggling with. And as you know, I've helped you and a lot of our friends and a lot of my clients with just kind of, more stoic ways of living and that kind of stuff. So
the name, OptiMystic. So it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a play on like optimism and mysticism. Yeah. Right?
As you know, ever since I've been a little kid, right? I'm like, I have the ability to see the positive side of things.
A lot of mysticism that I see online, a lot of it can get really dark. And I know a lot of your stuff isn't like that. It's very positive. But so let's get into your story then. So you're born 1988.
Yep.
In Hollywood, Los Angeles, California. We were both born there, and we were born there because our parents moved there in the 70s to pursue acting careers, which they did. And we were both born by a midwife at home who was a wife of our great uncle, and she was a Wicca witch.
That's right.
A practicing Wicca witch, which growing up,
we didn't know, and we kind of didn't like, and we'd been programmed. Yeah, it was all very strange to us, and we were programmed by thinking that witches were bad and things like that. I mean, and at her funeral, they burnt a pentagram, and that was kind of weird. So
what was your childhood like? I'll let you tell it.
Well, yeah. So I mean, first of all, the midwife was a witch, which is awesome. I was also born at the same time as the water, which is really rare. Usually the water breaks and then an hour or so later. Yeah, it's very.
I didn't know that you were born with the water.
I came out at the same time as the water, and my name is Banks. Yep. So, a bank directs the flow. And then also that midwife, she filmed my birth.
That's right. That's right.
And then used it to train other midwives.
Yeah, that's a funny story, actually.
So literally, since the moment I came into this world, I've been teaching. I was also born at 2:33 a.m. to a mother who was 33 years old. We are exactly 33 months apart, you and I.
That's right, yeah.
I had my near-death experience at 33, so 33 seems to be my synchronicity number, and it represents teaching.
And we'll get into that near-death experience in a minute here.
Yeah.
Just as a side note, real quick, tell the story about you seeing that video in school.
It wasn't the birth video that I saw in
it wasn't?
school.
Okay,
No.
okay.
No, but mom was acting at the time, and she was in a sex ed video for 5th graders or 4th graders.
Okay.
It wasn't anything crazy, but mom, she was wearing a pregnancy suit.
That's right, yeah.
She played the aunt or a babysitter of somebody who was pregnant, and they were, oh, what's pregnancy? And
so you're in school,
doing
a sex ed or a pregnancy education class, and that was the video.
That was the video that they showed, and it was my mom. It was trippy.
All right, so childhood. I mean, for the most part, I remember your childhood being pretty uneventful as far as no big troublemaking, no big Well, you got injured a few times, but basically like regular stuff, like our cousin beating up on you and you fall and breaking your arm in baseball and like
Right.
stuff
Well,
like that.
I did get kicked out of school for smoking weed like 2 weeks after you did.
Yeah, that was in middle. You were in middle school.
Yeah.
Then, though. You did have a friend in school who died.
Yeah, in
on
fifth
a field
grade.
on a field trip.
Yeah, that
right?
was
Like,
pretty gnarly.
Yeah, how did that
Well, it
affect you?
I think since I've been young, I've had a different relationship with death than most people do. A more mature relationship with it. I don't know why. I've always just kind of been less phased by it.
Yeah, I mean, you're exposed to it at an early age.
Yeah,
so,
but I mean, definitely when I started waking up, one of the synchronicities was tied to that kid. His name was Adam. And when I first started waking up, remember I was having all those Adam synchronicities.
Yeah, that's
and I was
right,
like,
yeah.
what is this about? Like, and then you were the one who told me, you're like, Adam means earth, so it's probably telling you to get grounded.
Yeah, Earth, Son of Man.
Yeah.
Depending on how far back and when and where. But so you move on to middle school. And by the way, so you're growing up in the 90s culture as a kid, like elementary school.
Yeah.
Right? You went to the same elementary school as Nipsey Hussle.
That's right.
We were in the same grade. It was like in the
Yeah.
Crescent Heights area. It was like a magnet program that we went to there. So we had a lot of cultural diversity in our upbringing in Los Angeles. So middle school rolls around. It's the Tony Hawk phase era. Like
Yeah, and then
it's
Eminem came out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Eminem comes out. Start getting into even more into the hip hop culture, a little bit more
Yeah.
seriously, that kind of stuff. Like I was getting into the aggressive inline skating stuff, and you would kind of mess with that with me sometimes.
Yeah, I had no idea who I was at that time. Still
Right.
trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then
Got kicked out of school.
Got kicked out of school for smoking weed, so was forced to go to a religious private school.
Yeah, and that's when we went to school together for the only time, 1 year.
That's right.
No. We elementary school. We had some
Yeah,
years
we had
together,
some time together. But that was my first introduction to like really having to learn about religion and like, going to chapel every Wednesday morning and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was my first, brush with like, I don't like that I have to worship something outside of me. I always felt like that was weird. I always felt like it was weird that Jesus was more special than me. So that was kind of my first opening to like I'm down and I get the stories and I like the stories, but something here that's not really resonating with me.
It's also when you get into literature a lot more.
Yeah.
That's when you start getting into poetry a lot more.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, I was like kind of more seriously getting into rap music and I would already been like beatboxing, heavily influenced by like hip hop with like aggressive inline skating videos and just when I would go out skating, the graffiti culture, just all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was getting more seriously into that. You started picking it up. What did that open up for you, or did?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I had some really good teachers that definitely allowed me to express myself through poetry.
Literally teachers in school.
Teachers in school, that allowed me to express myself through poetry. Like I had an English teacher that would let me do vocabulary in rhyme and that kind of stuff. So I was definitely lucky to have that. And then, got out of high school pretty much as quickly as I can. I could. I graduated early, got all my points done and got out of there.
Yeah. What was life like after high school?
Well, remember, after high school, we basically were full blown like in a hip hop group.
That's right.
Called the Sophisticats, and did that pretty hardcore for like 5, 6, 7 years.
Whoa, longer, but
I'm saying hardcore.
And
just dived into that.
You get involved in your first. Was that your first job?
Yeah,
the sales job. Okay,
yes.
So
a lot of people don't know that I come from a career in sales.
Right.
Literally,
what kind of like sales?
Since the age of 16, I was a telemarketer, sales trainer, sales guru, if you will. And so a lot of people don't know that that's my background, and that that's actually what originally opened me up to the idea of manifestation after reading the book The Secret when I was probably like 27 or something like that.
Right.
And I, because I always knew with sales that there was something unexplainable about how certain people were good and certain people weren't. And it didn't have anything to do with work ethic. And it didn't have to do with how good they articulated themselves or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, there's like this, so many companies have done research on this since like the last like 100 years, trying to figure out what makes a good salesman. And like they can't really figure it out. And it's because it involves manifestation.
Yeah.
And that's what I discovered.
It's crazy how like a lot of the top sales stuff I've read, they like get very spiritual. They even they even use the word spiritual.
Yeah.
They even like have whole sections on it.
Think and Grow Rich was what really opened me up
here.
to like, oh my God, like
This dude's super spiritual.
they're like meditating to gather information for their Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah.
Like this is strange.
Check it out if you haven't. It's it'll kind of
Think and Grow Rich.
It's a kind of the way that we've been programmed. It's kind of yin yang feeling, polar opposite feeling of like spirituality and corporate sales stuff.
Yeah,
but you start to find that.
Well, there was one of the gurus in India, one of the ancient Dalai Lamas said, the next truly enlightened one will probably be an insurance salesman from New Jersey.
I love that.
Because, they're going to have to deal with modern day society. And that's kind of what happened to me.
So moving forward then, doing music, you moved to Davis, early 2010s?
Yeah.
There?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
Moved up to UC Davis for about 4 years following my girlfriend at the time.
Right, because she was going to school up in UC Davis.
Yep.
All right, and then what was that time like?
That was a pretty a time of like not feeling great about myself, kind of feeling low and not as good as the people around me for sure. Then after that, came back, got back into the sales force again, and then just started killing it.
And then you told me around that time too, like that's like kind of like when you had like not like a meth relapse, like, but you tried meth a couple times like as a kid and stuff like that. But this is kind of around the time you like started experimenting with it more again.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, and then so you come back to LA, and then you go to the sales job, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of go like, you're successful in it. You're also doing meth sometimes.
Yes.
And it kind of goes hand in hand. Like a lot of that culture kind of gets intertwined, not because it's like a drug culture, but because of the drive and the uppers and right.
Yeah.
And what happens?
So, basically when I'm at like the height of my meth use and I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life, COVID hits. And right before COVID hits, a magical person comes into my life, which is my friend Matthew, the shaman who awakened me. And
you're still kind of doing music, but like around the
no,
when you moved to Davis, we kind of stopped.
We stopped doing music. I was empty. I was making a lot of money. I had the house, I had the car, I had all the stuff, the girl. I was empty though. I didn't have, and that's what the meth was really giving me, that dopamine of happiness. You know what I mean? Because I didn't realize that I was like running away from my creativity and like, what I'm really put on here at this planet to do, and so it's like, it's not sustainable, which is why I needed the meth to keep doing it. Right. Cause it wasn't meant for me.
And then you had a near-death experience.
Yeah. So then, COVID happened and my friend Matthew Rodas, I love you. He was like, I think you need a reset. And then, I'd never heard of this drug. It was called DMT. Didn't do any research on it. He came over, I did some. I had an experience where I knew that I died. And I crossed over and went into the void and came back and basically I instantly had all this knowledge that I didn't have before, but I had no experience to turn that knowledge into wisdom yet.
You got flooded with data and information.
Yeah.
And didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah. And like the only thing I could think of when I came back was everything matters, nothing matters.
What's crazy is that's when it really seemed like you were on meth the most.
I was still.
I know you were, but you were also just like.
So that's why.
Like, you were like, information. I got all this information.
And that's why I'm grateful for being on meth.
Yeah.
The amount of, you're
not saying that.
I'm not saying anybody should do it. And I'm not saying that I want to do it again. I'm saying that I realized that it was perfect.
Yeah.
The amount of information I was able to put in my head between like, doing research on esoteric stuff to time putting in making music, I probably shoved 10 years worth of information into my head within like a couple of years.
Well, don't make people think that.
No, but I'm saying
it's the truth though.
Yeah.
But I'll say that I'm glad I did meth to know that I hate it, and to explain to people who have never done it, like I like explaining to them all the terrible side effects of
Oh,
it.
it's
like,
terrible.
Like trust me.
the only reason why I had to keep going is because if I came down, I would feel like shit. I just stayed high.
Yeah, or other people are like, oh yeah.
No,
I'm
it's no good.
Or
It's
other
no
people
good.
tell stories about how like, oh, I used to do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, that is the devil.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even like, so like when I came back from that, I was still using, and then that's when everything fell apart, where I lost my ex-girlfriend. She
Right.
kicked me out of the house that I kind of got screwed over on, and like just everything fell apart.
Right.
And at the same time, I was having mystical experiences happen. So basically, ever since my near-death experience, I started having mystical experiences.
You were having hardcore ones, like
And they were definitely meth induced as well.
Well, in particular, like the airplane radio.
Yeah.
You were telling me, you're like, dude, I don't know what's going on, but I'm like, there are times where airplane is flying overhead or something, and I'm like,
I can hear it.
I can hear the radio, like walkie-talkie frequency of like the people like communicating on the planes and stuff like that. Doesn't matter what it is or why. Experiencing that is
it's very trippy.
Very, very strange.
It's very strange. I remember being like,
yeah,
like how is that? But anyway, I mean,
I've had things happen to me like that totally sober though as well. So
and if I haven't had other experiences, I've had so many experiences that I know that consciousness is not contained in the brain by itself.
Well, not to get hung up on the substance or the chemicals or anything like that, but you had that near-death experience, that spiritual, which basically led to a spiritual awakening.
It did. It began a spiritual awakening, 100%.
And you were talking about a lot of things that are things that I had already had a brief education in, and a lot of kung fu stuff, but it's more because it was all connected through like the temples and the teachings and stuff like that. But I was nowhere a specialist in any of this stuff. My meditation stuff was like supplemental to a lot of like my martial arts training.
Right. I'm so lucky to have you though in those times when I was starting to lose it, and then also starting to put it back together, and you were like, hey, that kind of sounds like some Eastern teachings that I've heard of before.
Sounds like just certain things, like sounds like you need to meditate to like they told like quieting the chattering monkey.
Yes.
Because,
oh my God.
and all the thoughts.
I would have never even like considered meditating if you didn't tell me to.
I mean, think about all the people that are out there that naturally have that use substances to calm that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That calm their sober chattering mind.
Yeah.
And it's just like we're all different. We all have access to different things, though, naturally, unnaturally. But so
all substances are here for you to master that frequency, so that you can do it without the substance. To alleviate us, and to that's it.
Yeah, regardless if where you live deems it legal or not, doesn't change the reason why it's here.
Yeah.
So what did that spiritual awakening lead you to? I believe it led you to doing more, for a while, led you into more mystical learning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
you went
100%.
into a lot of esoteric.
Yeah, because it was the synchronicities that were happening in my life, the number synchronicities, and just discovering more about my past and myself, and finding breadcrumbs that like my higher self left for me, or God left for me, or whatever you believe, and through really starting to lose a grip on everything, I basically was like, the only way all of this makes sense is if I'm God, and everyone is God, and if that's true, then I can get off meth no problem, and I quit cold turkey.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's very rare too, from what I hear.
Well,
and a hard one to.
Well, the reason why people
and I hear that meth is way more of a mental. Which a lot of rehab facilities will even not accept people with the meth stuff, because they're like, this is not a chemical thing that we can treat. This is more of a mental thing.
It's not a body thing. Like with heroin, it's like it can actually, like drinking and heroin can actually mess up your body. I mean, not that meth doesn't, but yeah, the worry of getting off of meth is that you will become suicidal, basically, or that you'll relapse and you'll do way more than you think.
And then, which will lead you to a crazy action.
You've built up a tolerance, so then when you quit, you'll do the same amount that you've done before, and then you'll die.
From crystal meth?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people overdose.
Well, I could imagine heart attacks and
just
shit
from
like
coming back and doing the same amount that they were doing before.
Sadly, and this is a negative stereotype, I view crystal meth as the drug that doesn't kill people. It just leads them to do crazy shit.
Yeah, for sure.
That may get them killed or other people
Absolutely.
killed. It's the fentanyl, the heroin, and all the other stuff that will, like, you know.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, I've heard like Bashar, who's one of my favorite spiritual teachers. He's a channeler, and he talks about how the reason why quitting cold turkey works is because you have switched timelines.
Yeah.
You're not doing this gradual thing like, oh, if I just do a little bit less and a little bit less, and it's like yeah, no, when you quit cold, it's like bam, you're in a different timeline, different mind, a different person.
We'll talk
now.
about this on a different episode, but it's kind of like the trap. It's the trap,
Yeah.
right? The trap of being sober, the trap of being this, the trap of like you get so obsessed with it that you can't kind of quite just switch timelines. And
it's like
switch mindsets.
I you know, you'll die from being sober if you're like, I haven't smoked a joint in 270 days and 22 hours and 6 minutes. It's like you're gonna die from not smoking.
I tend
it still got you.
I find myself feeling very unhealthy when I go on diets because I'm mentally not keeping myself well rounded, and I'll start to like stop everything, and that means I'm not staying as hydrated. I'll just like not eat as much as I should because I'm like, no, I don't want to eat bad stuff. So then I'm just like not eating, and then my mood gets bad.
That's okay to do that too.
Anyway, that spiritual awakening led you to get back into doing music.
Yeah. So it kind of happened simultaneously where I was like, you know, I like I said, I was empty, even though I had the money and the cars and the girl and the house. Like I was really empty. So I was definitely simultaneously doing music, but through all of it, I just discovered that like it's all basically the same thing. It's all me. It's like different facets of me, and that I have a very artistic side of me that needs to be expressed.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a life path 3, which is the creative type. I'm also a Gemini, so it's, you know, a lot of creativity flowing through me. And I basically blocked it for a decade. So you know what I mean? You know, like, and now for the people,
a lot in the bank.
For the people that have been watching and listening to my music, you know, a lot of people kind of think like, where did this guy come from? He kind of came out of nowhere. Yeah, this was all pent up in me for a decade. You know, I was a dope rapper before, and we did dope stuff with other dope people, and we were very well respected.
But you're completely something different now, and more than that.
Yeah, and it's so cool to find that the mysticism and the conscious music goes together, and it's essentially the same community.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
and so that we were doing podcasts.
Yeah.
During that time, and that was just kind of to document and share a lot of stuff that we were going through to promote some of our stuff. But it just kind of just turned into a lot of spirituality stuff.
Yeah, because it was like every day we were talking and conversing and like coming to new understandings about the universe every single day, multiple times a day, epiphany after epiphany after epiphany, and like really starting to put it into practice. And so it's like, we're already talking about it. We're already putting it into practice. We might as well document it, right?
Yeah. And so during this journey, recently, through you doing the podcast and sharing a lot of your stuff on social media, clips from our podcasts, and then your own videos on social media and posts, you kind of went mini viral.
Yeah.
Like, especially in like a lot of spiritual communities. And started getting a lot of people message you, like a lot.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah. It's fun. I love it.
Yeah. And I see you, you know, we were always thinking of things to do, like, oh, should this be a business? Should we do this? Should we do that? And it kind of always went back to, you changed my life because you were always preaching to me, just like, it makes more sense to just do things for the right reasons, to help people.
Yeah. That's how you truly worship the divine.
It's changed my life.
Yeah.
I mean, it really has. It really has. It makes you not trip on the same shit, man.
Yeah.
It really does. And that karma, or whatever you want to call it, that good energy, like whatever, it it comes back in so many ways, and money is only one kind of currency.
Absolutely.
And,
And it's just, there's it's not easy to tell the truth all the time, which is why, like I've told you before, if you are a person who hasn't been a piece of shit in your life, then I don't trust you. And the reason why is because you're either lying or you don't have enough experience yet to know what it's like to be that person. And it's not easy, but once you start just like telling the truth, it's not about not lying. It's about being truthful,
Right.
to yourself,
Right.
and to the universe, right? And once you start on that role of telling the truth, you don't have to go back.
I mean,
it just gets easier and easier and easier.
It's so easy for you to be the kind of guy who makes posts on Instagram that's like yelling at people, telling them what to do. It's so easy for you to be the kind of guy that, not that speaks to big crowds, because I don't think there's anything wrong with that, or getting paid to speak to big crowds, but the type of person that makes people pay to see you, to do some sort of programs and things like that.
Yeah.
That will like make their business life better, when like everyone there's like literally like, how do I turn my golf ball business into something bigger and better?
Yeah.
And like,
Well, who would I be if I was like, telling people to like be all crazy spiritual and then like literally shoving programs down their throats, or like
you're the kind of guy when someone tells you that they want to start their golf ball business and they want advice from you, you'd say something like, okay, is that what you want to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they'd be like, well, yeah. And then you'd be like, well, why?
Yeah.
And then, they'd tell you some reason like, well, for money.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, well, why do you want the money? Well, so I can do this and have more time to play with my kids.
Yeah.
And then you'd say, you can do that right now.
You can do that right now.
So
the money is an illusion, because no matter how much you have, you're always going to want more. And it's like, even things like love and all that kind of stuff, it's like, you realize that like, it's actually never enough, which is why it's always enough.
And it's not to it's not to discourage that person and put them down.
No. It's to encourage.
It's to encourage them and get them
that
to
they're
realize
that they're bigger than that.
They're bigger than that, and they're thinking of the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not like get rid of the golf balls.
No.
But it's like, it might make them come back around to be like, oh, I can do something like make these golf balls and donate them to these kids at these places that need golf balls, and turn that into something else. Or I can do this with my other money that I make from this other business and use it to do something with these golf balls. Or, there's a lot of things that
the problem is that when you follow the money, that the real goal gets lost.
Yeah.
Right. And you just start chasing the money, because like, again, if you had all the money in the world and everybody was taken care of, world hunger was ended, there was no problem with pollution, everything was good, and you already went, traveled everywhere, you had all the material possessions that you wanted, what would you want to do with the rest of your life? And whatever that answer is exactly what you could be doing right now, because you don't need money to do it. And so it's like you said with the golf thing, it's like, it sounds like you actually want the money so that you can get all these possessions, so that you can finally get to a place to where you can give back, right? You can give back right now.
Right.
Helping one person at a time. It doesn't take any money.
And it starts to change how you think, how you move, how you act, what your life's about.
And what happens is that you become the person that you want to become right there in that moment.
Yeah.
You become that future version of you. Oh my God, it shifted.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because for so long I was like, oh, I'm going to become a tarot card, a psychic. I'm going to get certified. I'm going to do this and become a psychologist. And like at the end of the day, I was just like, hold on a second. Like, none of that matters. All I got to do is help one person at a time. And inevitably,
how do you help people? Because that's what I wanted to get to. Is that what you're really focusing on and doing now? Besides following your passions, expressing yourself, creativity, even your music, though, it's done in a way to like help people.
Yeah.
It's a message. It's not, look at me, I'm so amazing. It's not, I make you feel good.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing I try to help people with, is that to shine without the want to be seen. I am a beacon. I'm not knocking on people's doors trying to awaken them. I'm simply a light so that people, when they awaken, they go, oh my God, I see a light over there. Right? And that way it's not so hard I'm not preaching to people who don't want to hear it. And I'm not really preaching to anybody. Like, I don't have the answers. I'm literally here to help you remember who you are.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You know, figuring out the how the universe works and all the esoteric stuff and sacred geometry and all that, like, really fun stuff. It's not for everybody. It is a lot. It's very overwhelming when you open yourself up to the language of the universe, but I'm more than happy to do it. I love doing it, and there's no other reason to have that information other than to turn it into wisdom to help the collective.
So, I mean, I guess you kind of covered it, but moving forward, what is it that your goals are to do with this podcast? What are your goals for what are Optimistic Banks' goals for what Optimistic Banks is and what you're doing?
Yeah,
in this
ultimately,
matrix?
you know, I want to document the spiritual awakening and help people realize that they're not alone, and that, you know, as cliche as it sounds, we are all one thing, one massive thing in this together, helping each other out. And, you know, it's a very confusing world and existence. And I think that I can help people with the knowledge that I've gained and the wisdom that I've applied. And
Shit's crazy right now, yo.
it is crazy.
Like,
and I know I want to share, like, you know, just like, you know, the more optimistic side of things, because ultimately, like, you know, look,
people are all about like all the negative stuff, like the most deepest, darkest negative things,
of course,
which are very tied into a lot of awakening and mysticism stuff. So I get it, because that was a part of our awakening also.
Well, the shocking stuff is what we need to trigger us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the reason why blood magic works and stuff like that. You know, it's not that the blood physically, like, it's literally that, like, inside of us, we're like, oh, this must be fucking something crazy because I'm using blood. It's like, when really you can do that with meditation. And that's, so ultimately, like, we're all here to learn how to manipulate energy.
Yeah.
And ironically, half of that is doing nothing. The letting go part of it. You know? Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great place for us to keep your intro and to kind of like get everyone up to speed with what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
There's definitely stuff that people want you to cover on podcasts that are coming up. So for you guys out there that follow him on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, send him a message.
Leave it in the comments too. Like, if there's certain topics that you would like me to cover, please leave it in the comments.
And, like, don't be afraid to go on some general stuff, super specific stuff, super deep stuff.
But like, as a lot of you know, I've been commenting back to you guys about the stuff that you've been suggesting, and we're definitely going to dive deep into all those things.
Yeah, definitely. You got some merch as well.
Yes.
Make sure you guys check that out. We'll throw the link up there, and we'll throw the link to your music in there as well.
Appreciate that.
But yeah, man, I'm super excited for you.
Me too.
I'm super glad to be your three-dimensional, stuck in the matrix sidekick here, so I can kind of throw like have like a different perspective. We didn't want to make this just like two super awakened guys. I like throwing questions at you and hypothesizing with you about very three-dimensional things that I still go through because I still choose to live a certain lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, so living certain lifestyles is very difficult to navigate, and it's very helpful having you help me to navigate with that. So I'm so
definitely
excited to do this.
I'm so grateful for you. And like, we didn't really touch on it that much in this episode, but you know, it's at a certain point we have had many linked meditation experiences together. It's a lot of fun. You and I are linked in a way. I mean, obviously we're brothers, so we're, you know, the same mother and father, but there's something very magical beyond that we are very closely linked to. And I think it's so much fun. And I love you.
Before we leave here, I'll leave you guys with one little very very basic like meditation that you can do. You can do this one like it's like a breathing exercise meditation. You can do it seated, you can do it standing, but if you're male, you're going to place your left hand underneath your right hand. If you're female, vice versa. And then same thing with the thumb, right? So the left hand is under the right.
Okay.
And then your left thumb is under your right thumb. Or I should say right over left, right over left. That's a lot easier.
Like
just
that?
like that. Your right thumb is going to be over your left.
Okay,
just
got
like
it.
that.
Yeah,
That's going to sit basically like where your belly button is, a little bit below. And you want to be relaxed. And you're going to breathe in through your nose. And when you breathe out through your mouth, the tip of your tongue is going to touch the roof of your mouth. But your teeth are going to be open so air can come through. And you kind of do like a little bit of like a hiss to it, right? So deep in through your nose and then out through your mouth. This is always like a good like anxiety reset or energy reset. And then what always helps for me is breathing in good energy, thinking of positivity, good oxygen. And then when you breathe out, any ailments that you have, pains, things bothering you, you just let it escape with your breath. I guarantee you if you do that for like 10 deep, good breaths.
Do you remember the other day when I was meditating and I texted you and I was like, bro, I can make myself feel euphoric at any time. And what I do is I meditate and I say to myself, you are everything, you are nothing, you are everything, you are nothing. And I literally imagine myself as like the universe in this vortex, and like it just fills me with so much happiness, and it's like boom, 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 and it keeps hitting, and you're almost like, how long can I keep this up for?
Dude,
it's fucking nice.
Natural
man.
dopamine hit,
I know,
man.
it totally is, and it's sustainable. It's infinite.
It is, and
not like the meth.
I don't see a lot of people normalizing this stuff. I see a lot of people being super, super like crazy into it. Paisley, which is.
It's kind
I
of
get it.
It's like,
and
it's like ego-based spirituality. Let's keep it real.
There's some of it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there though that need very basic stuff, just like breathing exercise stuff.
Yeah.
That need someone to like show them that's just just breathing exercise just makes you feel good.
If you really just focus on your breath at any time and like you're really conscious of it, it is euphoric every single breath.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Well, I'm excited, man.
Me too, man.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, guys.
Yep.
OptiMystic Podcast, episode 1. Make sure you guys comment, share, like, subscribe. Everything helps the algorithm, as you know. Pick up some merch. And thanks for joining us.
Love y'all. Be good.
Peace.
Compels you, resides in you. That's the silent truth, God. One day you'll find out that the vine is root. And the divine is you. Blow your mind, 'cause you designed it too. Even